Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'm delving into the new series and it's the Ninth Doctor's episode, The End of the World. It's quite ironic that the next review I do is 2 episodes from the last story that I reviewed, the TV movie. This is the second episode of the first of the revived series of Doctor Who, The End of the World, the first time that we go to an alien world. Well, it's not really an alien world, it's Earth in the far future. Very quick synopsis. Rose and the Doctor land on the space station at the end of the Earth's death before the sun explodes and swallows the Earth effectively. All these corporate people are here watching on a platform that gets moved about to different universal bits to see the Earth die. And then all chaos goes loose as has been sabotage, and these little spidery creatures, four-legged spiders, little robots that are causing problems throughout the station. And it's up to the Doctor to reset everything because the whole systems have been mucked up, and he has to reset everything by going through the air conditioning section, which has got rotating fans, which he has to go through with the help of Jabe, and Jabe ends up helping at one end, but she's made of wood, so as the heat goes up, she spontaneously combusts. But the Doctor manages to save the day and get everything working again, and Rose nearly gets fried by the sun, with the sun filter being failing and the windows cracking in the observation lounge where they first appear in this space station. Now, this is a story that I can watch again and again and again on the basis of how everything was so new and so reimagined at this point, because this is the first time we actually see proper aliens and proper worlds building, and the first proper use of CGI in a way with Cassandra, and it kind of works for me in that respect because it's really quite fun and keeps going. The plot is simple enough, the Earth's about to burn. There's lots of corporate people there to watch it burn. And then one of them tries to sabotage the whole thing and kill them all off so she can buy shares and everybody, because she's got shares in other companies and makes a fortune. And it's basically the good old adage of corporate greed coming to cause trouble. But let's go through some of the elements I've got here of the effects and everything else of the story. So we've got Platform 1 itself, which is the viewing platform which they all view on. For the CGI, 2005, remember, it's not bad. It's pretty solid. It's certainly a step up from what Doctor Who was giving beforehand, but that wouldn't be hard, considering what Doctor Who had to contend with. I think the TV movie's effects are a little bit better, but then again, they are working still on practical, so CGI is still fairly newish, and there's elements of CGI being a bit rubbish, even to the modern day, but that's the nature of the beast. It's a lot better than it wasn't 16 years ago. Few funny points, and there's lots of comedy throughout the script that Russell T Davies writes here. We've got that it's the Earth is owned by the National Trust, and they reset it to the classic Earth, where the continents are kind of similar to what they are now, because Rose points out the continents shift, so it should look different. It's the first appearance of the psychic paper, the new tool that the Doctor has. So you've got the sonic screwdriver and you've got the psychic paper. So the sonic screwdriver opens all the doors, physical doors, and the psychic paper opens all the diplomatic doors. And it's a nice quick shorthand for a plot device. You can remember where they're writing stories here which are half the length of what they were traditionally in the original series. So they've got to get through things a bit more expediently. So the psychic paper certainly helps that. Then we've got some of the main aliens that come on. So we've got the Forest of Cheam with the trees, and particularly Jabe, who becomes part of the plot later on. You've got the Moxa Balhoun, the first attempt at trying to get an alien in latex. I love the fact when they do the greeting presents when Doctor and Rose meet them, that he exchanges spit, a bodily saliva, and actually spits in Rose's face. That's a funny little bit. Of course, we've got Lady Cassandra of Delta 17, who appears one more time in New Earth, the next series. But she's the standout performance. But then again, it's Zoe Wanamaker. I don't expect anything different because Zoe Wanamaker's a very good actress. But the whole character and the way it works and the way she's saying moisturize me is a brilliant way of working it. And I love the character for that. Rose comes across as a bit overwhelmed with all the aliens in this one, and she gets overwhelmed with the whole situation of a strange and alien world. She meets up with Rafala, one of the technicians, and has a conversation with her, which was interesting. The Doctor explains the telepathic circuits to Rose, and it's the first time we have a modern Who explanation about how people can, speak to people in English and how the translation works. It's expanded on a New Earth where the translation circuit is through the Doctor, has the ability, but at this point the TARDIS translates everything. It's a gift for the TARDIS. It's the first instance of that in the new series. It's the first mention of the Time War properly. Jane mentions it, and the Doctor then refers to his planet being gone at the end of the episode. We don't know exactly it being called the Time War at this point, but it's the first instance of that. There's a lot of foreshadowing as well. There's a foreshadowing with the steward being killed off by the sun filter, and it's a foreshadowing to the peril that Rose will entail later in the story. So overall, there's a lot of elements in there, lots of interesting little tidbits and scenes that I like from it. It flows a lot better than I'm describing it. I seem to be a little bit higgledy-piggledy with this review today, but it flows a lot better than it's describing, and everything kind of makes sense, which is always good to see. The characters themselves, we've got Christopher Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor, one of the most complete starts of the Doctor I think I know. This one kind of goes into his darkness a bit more, and his guilt with the Time War. It's the first exploration of that. But Eccleston to me is one of the most complete Doctors from the off. Even Hartnell developed into the character that we know later on. Eccleston's character is kind of set more or less at the beginning. There's happy-go-lucky. There is that element side of regret that you see in the first episode, Rose. This is expanded on here. But the character of the Ninth Doctor kind of is more or less there from the beginning, and does have a little bit of development, and probably has a bit more development as time goes on, but not as much as probably the other Doctors because of obviously length of time he is and everything else. But he is the most complete to start with, and he hits the ground running from the start, and this is certainly an example of that. You kind of underappreciate how Christopher Eccleston redefined the role of the Doctor for all that followed, but he really did make the role completely different. The last time the role was redefined in such a way, I would say, is probably McCoy's Doctor. I mean, McGann's is probably going back to kind of whimsical nature, eccentricity of some of the early Doctors, but this is the first reconditioning of the Doctor as a character, and more backstory and more emotional beats to him, and the first major change of the Doctor's background and story really since the Seventh Doctor. We don't know about the Time War as such at the moment, but the Time War is such a nebulous concept, they've never really approached it in the main series properly. They have done quite a bit in Big Finish, but they haven't done the main series properly. So it's a nebulous thing, but Eccleston doesn't miss a beat. Every line is pitch perfect, it works well enough, and his relationship and rapport with Billie Piper really is strong as well. I know this wasn't the first thing they filmed. They'd filmed a couple of other things before this, so this was like the second block, I think it was. So the rapport between the two characters is there, and between the two actors is there, and Billie Piper shows why she's a great actress in this. I mean, she's obviously playing a teenager who's a bit overwhelmed with the whole situation, and the way the script is written by Russell Davies, the emotion side is really comes to the fore in this one. But then you've got the kind of sides where she doesn't put up with the Doctor's baggage. There's the S word there, but I'm trying not to swear in these reviews. I know it's difficult sometimes. Rose calls him out on it, and people say she's development of Ace, and in some respects she is. They said with Ace, she didn't have really a family background, so she kind of relied on the Doctor more as the kindly uncle. You get the impression that Rose potentially fancies the Doctor here, although obviously that is more in depth in the next incarnation. But this one, it's quite a nice dynamic, and she's spunky. She has that altercation with Cassandra when she has a chat with her about the fact how Cassandra thinks she's the last human, and suggests that Rose could get nipped and tucked, and Rose basically is disgusted about it, and she just, there's a commentary on plastic surgery, of course, and the way that Billie Piper projects most of the role, you forget that she's playing a character. You forget that this is different to the person we all know in real life. She has nailed the acting, and people's perceptions of Billie Piper being a bad actress and not potentially good and everything. Obviously, they saw something different in her, and it's proved to be that she's a very strong actress here. This is one of her stronger roles. I think there's better episodes. Father's Day is actually quite a good one for her. But overall, it's actually quite a strong story for her, strong character, and it's really the window into us. She really does purvey this fact of being uncertain about where she is with the monsters or the aliens, and how she feels uncomfortable about it. And it's the Doctor that kind of is the linchpin, but she kind of realises very quickly, hold on a minute, I've just gone with this guy, I don't know what he's like, what he's doing, have I made the right decision? There's doubt there, there's realism there, and that's something you don't really get with the other companions. So there is a development of the companions' role here, which you see later in the series. You've then got The Steward by Simon Day, standard, obnoxious, pen-pushing character. He plays it well enough. I think his best bit is actually the bit when he dies. I think that's played pretty well, considering he's going, I don't know what's happening with the system. The system's going all completely, and then the spider comes up and presses the button to take up the sun filter, and he gets fried alive. I thought that was quite cool. Two of the best guest casts are Yasmin Bannerman, who plays Jabe, who spends a lot of time with the Doctor. Rose riffs on the fact that he thinks that Jabe fancies him, and plays on that, and that the joke about the fact that Jabe's trying to establish a relationship between the Doctor and Rose, and basically says all these different further derogatory relationship tropes, coming up with concubine. Whatever isn't visible is what Rose replies. I think that's quite a nice little line. But the whole relationship of Jabe is aware of the Time War, is aware of the situation, and is aware of the planet is gone, the Gallifrey is gone. And the whole scene in the tunnel, in the corridors underneath where they're going to the air conditioning bit, and that conversation that Jabe has with the Doctor, and the whole thing of the Doctor having tears and crying, is a very strong bond. And I love the fact that there's kind of, the Doctor realizes that Jabe is a good person and wants to help. He doesn't like the idea of her holding the lever to slow down the fans, but she does it. She dies for it, and he made sure that his compassion and empathy comes through, because he goes to the other members of the Forest of Cheam that are there and speaks to them afterwards, and it's a really nice touch. But yeah, Yasmin Bannerman is very good, very, very strong in the role, and she's returned in various big finishes later on, which is interesting, and I'll get to them eventually, hopefully. Maybe a hint, I don't know. Then we've got the guest appearance of Jimmy V, first appearance of Jimmy V in these small roles. Mox Balhoun, he doesn't do much in this one, to be fair. And of course, Jimmy V is better known now as R2-D2 in Star Wars. Then you've got Zoe Wanamaker with Cassandra. This villain piece, she plays it with such aplomb. You get the impression she was chewing the microphone when she was doing the voiceover for this character. You get that impression. But I love the way that they've kind of made the character look like her, with the eyes and the way she speaks and that. And the CGI actually stands up quite well 16 years later. It actually works quite well, and I quite like the whole conversation, and the whole fact they try and play on the fact that she's his skin stretched on a panel, basically, with her brain underneath, and they utilise the effects work quite well to show that. And I really do think it was a great part, and the way she comes back is a little bit meh. But the idea of the character and the way it works, and her comeuppance at the end, really, really is something to watch. And I love the fact that, the heat is still too warm in there. She comes back after being teleported out with that secret teleport she had. She comes back and doesn't have her clientele with her two assistants with her, so she dries out and stretches and explodes, and it's quite a cool little effect. The writing is, as I say, pretty solid from Russell T Davies overall. I do like the whole emotional element of it. He is trying to tap into the kind of adventure story that you have in the old series. It's a kind of base under siege story, but in a kind of modern twist to it. There's some underlying cause that's causing all the problems on the base, and we don't find it out to the third act, effectively. And that's the sort of tropes you've got here. But there's a lot of modern twists, and there's a lot of modern jokes. The iPod joke, the Woolwich that comes out, I love that. The fact that you've got the classics, which is Tainted Love by Soft Cell and Toxic, and I believe both of them are remix version, especially for this. It's just quite, the writing's quite funny and light, and it goes along at a good pace, and it's not missing any major plot holes. There's some quiet moments to slow the action down, with the Doctor and Rose talking halfway through about how he thinks, he's asking how she's getting on, and she thinks it's a bit weird and alien. It's quite well paced and quite well written, and you can tell that there's a lot of passion in the script, and it comes across on screen in spades. The direction, the lighting, the graphics, everything else, the Mill does a brilliant job with the graphics here. It kind of, apparently it is the biggest of the budgeted episodes. A lot of budget was used on this episode, and you can see why. A lot of work and care has been put into it, and even though some of the effects are a little bit outdated now, for the time, it still works brilliantly. And it gives you that enough to get the sense of that you're in a different place, and the way they film it and the way they shoot it works quite well. Direction wise, this is the first Eurus Lin directed story. I'm not a great fan of his later stuff, because he kind of does a lot of Torchwood, and he does a couple more Doctor Who episodes later in this series and on. It's not the strongest of the directors, but it's solid enough in this one, and it helps the plot. But he's not one of my favourite directors, and I don't. It's just because he tries too hard in the later stuff. This one he's got it just right, but the later ones he tries too hard. So yeah, it's okay. The direction's okay, and the music. This is early Murray Gold. He's still using synths. He's not using Philharmonic Orchestra Wales yet, National Orchestra Wales yet. So BBC Welsh Orchestra or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it now. He's still in early stages of that. It's pretty muted. It complements the story. It's ineffectual. It doesn't cause too much of a problem. It works quite well. Overall, though, I would say that I would rate this story 4 TARDISes out of 5. Now, let's see where this story sits within the rest of the reviews done so far. At the bottom, with 2.5 TARDISes out of 5, is Time Lash. The End of the World joins other classics like The Visitation, The Green Death, The Empty Child the Doctor Dances, An Unearthly Child, The Mind Robber, The Power of the Daleks, Spearhead from Space, Horror of Fang Rock, Turn Left, and Father's Day. And at the top, we still have 6 stories with 4.5 TARDISes out of 5, The Happiness Patrol, Inferno, The Day of the Doctor, The Caves of Androzani, The Tomb of the Cybermen, and Dalek. That's it for this review. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think of The End of the World. And if you do like this video, please like it and share it with the hashtag teamstructor. And if you like the channel as a whole, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. General every Sunday at 4 PM GMT. Because of the schedule issues and everything else, next week is a vlog to Melrose Abbey. Hopefully you can join me for that. But yes, until next time guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you later.